Good morning, guys. Great to talk to all of you. Today I'm going to talk about your personal fall arrest systems, your self-retracting lifelines, your yo-yos, also referred to as a self-retractable lanyard or a self-retracting lifeline again. Its name varies among manufacturers and resellers. Its design and its function are the same. So let's talk about them a little bit. An automatic fall arrest device exists of a hard polymer casing that holds a certain length of webbing, or I guess you could say in some cases wire rope, but let's call it webbing. The webbing is connected to a snap hook that is connected to the harness of a worker. And by walking further away from the fall arrest device, the device unrolls the webbing as it runs out. Kind of like this, guys, right? You're hooked up right here, and the further away you go, it moves out towards you. If you move back closer in, moves like that. If it's up above, same thing. Move down as you move out towards the edge, moves around. As you get closer, goes back in. Self-retracting devices, okay? The device automatically retracts the webbing, so when a worker comes closer again, it rolls up the webbing, just like we showed. This makes sure the webbing is always taut, and that's important. And excess webbing doesn't hinder you working. The most important feature of this equipment is that it works like a seat belt when a fall occurs. When a sudden acceleration takes place, like a fall, the fall arrest device blocks immediately, stopping the fall within a fraction of a second. All of a sudden you fall, it just stops you right off the bat. To reduce the impact of the forces to the body when a fall is arrested, the automatic fall arrest device is equipped with built-in or external energy absorbers. Also, the snap hook at the attachment end is often equipped with a fall indicator that is triggered when a fall is arrested. In general, an automatic fall arrest device is used for situations where workers use an overhead fall protection or overhead anchor point because the fall arrest device minimizes the fall distance by the immediate fall arrest when the fall occurs. But in some cases, they're also used in horizontal fall protection systems. These lifelines are used in situations when you're working at height, 6 feet or more, and in fall arrest or fall resistance situations. When working in fall restraint, users cannot reach the area where they have the probability to fall. When working with a self-retracting lanyard, this means that the unrolled length of the lanyard should not exceed the distance from the anchor to the edge. A typical example of an overhead self-retracting lifeline use is while working on, let's say, steel I-beams. The reason for this is the self-retracting lanyard minimizes the fall distance by stopping a fall almost instantly. When the anchor point is right above the user, this not only limits the fall distance, it also helps prevent swing falls. How about horizontal use? That's what a lot of you may be used to. Retracting lanyards are used in combination with permanently installed fall protection systems such as a single anchor point or a horizontal lifeline system. When using a self-retracting lifeline horizontally, you need to consider leading or sharp edges. And the cable or the webbing of the retracting lanyard needs to have a sharp edge protection to ensure it doesn't tear. When using a self-retracting lifeline horizontally, while anchored at foot level, you also need to consider the necessary fall clearance carefully. As the lanyard is anchored lower, a person can fall a longer distance before the speed sensing brake activates and stops your fall, compared to an overhead anchorage situation. There can also be situations in which there's just no option to install a permanent solution, like during construction. For this situation, steel slings are available. This allows a user to connect to, for example, a structural column. The retractable lanyard allows them to walk to their work site while keeping that lanyard taut. Before using any fall protection equipment, you should perform a pre-use check. This is a visual inspection in which you check for any damages. For self-retracting lifelines, you can check for cracks in the casing, corrosion or loose wires for the webbing or wire rope, severe pollution on the wire, deformations of the carabiners, and so forth. I'll talk about it a little bit more later on. Proper storage of self-retracting lanyards in a cool, dry place helps prevent material breakdown. Should you want to clean your self-retracting lanyard, do so according to the manufacturer's instructions. Some cleaning agents can damage the equipment, so you should be careful. Once again, self-retracting lifelines allow for a greater mobility for those who are working at height, while at the same time minimizing trip hazards as the lanyard is always pulled taut. When comparing the retracting lifeline to energy-absorbing lifelines, the retractables allow for a much smaller fall clearance. The braking mechanism stops the fall quickly and also manages to reduce forces on the user's body. For situations in which there is limited fall clearance, the retracting lifeline may be the best solution for all of you. Just as fall protection PPE, an automatic fall arrest device needs to be checked before each use. During this check, multiple damage or deformations may indicate that the safety of your equipment is compromised. This means that it has to be checked by a competent person to determine whether it's safe to use again or has to be taken out of service immediately. If you have any doubt about your safety equipment, always report this and have someone investigate those findings. One of the most obvious indications that the safety of the automatic fall arrest device is compromised is the activation of the fall indicator right on the snap hook. The fall indicator is a colored part at the attachment point of the snap hook. When it's not activated, a green color is showing to point out that it's safe to use the equipment. After a fall has been arrested and the indicator is activated by the forces, a red colored piece is visible. In this case, your equipment has been subject to a fall and it needs to be checked thoroughly by a competent person, whether it can be used again or whether it needs to be replaced. Other very important mechanisms that have to function properly in order to work safely with an automatic fall arrest device are the self-retracting or the tensioning mechanisms and the braking mechanism. When the self-retracting mechanism doesn't function properly, there's danger that the webbing will sag when the worker moves closer to the equipment again. As a result, the device will not lock immediately when a fall occurs, and the fall distance may be significantly longer, possibly causing serious injuries. In other words, when you move closer to your self-retracting device, the webbing should move in also. You should never have any slack in that whatsoever. It also becomes, a slip, a trip, or a fall on it too. Obviously, a properly working braking mechanism is essential for safe use of an automatic fall arrest device. This has to be tested prior to each use by pulling the webbing firmly downward when holding the casing. Pull until the brake engages without slipping and release, so the webbing retracts back into the casing. In case of the two functions don't work properly, remove the device out of service. An automatic fall arrest device is relatively heavy type of equipment, and it can be accidentally dropped, resulting in damages. Although it might look okay and safe from the outside, internal or small damages may occur after a period of extensive use. The casing might start to show cracks, the wire rope or the webbing can be damaged, connectors may not close or lock properly anymore. That's why it's of great importance that an automatic fall arrest device is checked thoroughly before each use. As the user, you must conduct an 8-point inspection at your self-retracting device before each use. Let's go over them really quickly. Ensure the safety locks when the lifeline is pulled sharply with no slippage. The labels have to be present and fully legible. Check your connecting hooks or your carabiners for damage, distortion, or any kind of corrosion, and their working condition. Check the housing for distortion, cracks, or other damage that make sure that your anchorage point is not distorted or damaged. Inspect each component of the personal fall protection system according to the manufacturer's instructions. The lifeline must fully extend and retract smoothly with no hesitation or slack in that line. Check the lifeline for cuts, burns, chemical damage, and abrasions. Check for loose or missing screws and bent or damaged parts. Inspect all hardware, including but not limited to hooks, buckles, D-rings. Look for any cracks or malfunction. Immediately remove it from service if you see any components that might fail. Check your stitching and the webbing. Look for any broken strands. Inspect all the hooks, D-rings, metal parts. Destroy and replace all worn or damaged equipment. Remember, and this is important, remember, the inspector is the most important part of any inspection procedure. You must be well trained and understand what they're looking for. Our objective is not just merely compliance. We must do our part to provide a safe work environment. Guys, thanks very much. Take this seriously if you will, okay? We don't want anybody falling or getting hurt. Okay, we've got a quick quiz for you. 4 questions today. Number 1, the lifeline must fully extend and retract smoothly with no hesitation or slack in the line. True or false? That's true. Number 2, manufacturing labels do not have to be present and fully legible on the self-retracting device. Well, that's false. The manufacturing label must be present, and you do have to be able to read it. Always check your connecting snap hooks or carabiners for damage. True. And the last question, number 4, it's important to ensure the safety locks when the lifeline is pulled sharply with no slippage. Engage as the manufacturer intended. And that is true. Great talking to everybody. I'll see you again next month. Thanks very much.